Hi students and family members, time for our time test. The first couple of lessons that we went over was telling time in two different ways. Talked about it as the regular way and the smart way. In order to do that, we showed the students how to label a clock. You'll notice that the 12, 3, 6, and 9, they all have specific things that you would say in what would be considered the smart way. And then starting at the 1 all the way down to the 5, we increase by 5-minute intervals and we say 5 after, 10 after, quarter after, 20 after, 25 after, until we get to the 6. The same can be said for starting at the 11 and going down to the 7, 5, 10, quarter, 20, 25, except this time we change the word. Some people say before, others say of. I like to say till or until. Quarter until the next hour, 20 until the next hour. So when you're looking at these clocks here, you've got to be able to separate these clocks into either halves or quarters. In this first one, I can see that my hour hand is just beyond the 5, so my regular time would be the 5 o'clock hour. Here's my 10. I know that because I labeled the clock and it's showing me that we're at 10 after, but it's not at the 10 exactly. It looks like it's at 5:12. And because it's on the right-hand side of the clock, I'm going to use the word after, and I would say 12 after 5. Making sure that I spell that out. Down here we have half past, and over here we have quarter until. Make sure that anything that is on the right-hand side of the clock, including half past, is the current hour. So in this case, it would be 10:30 because 10:30 is still the current hour that we are in. But anytime you have a clock like this one on the left, it changes a bit because now we're talking about before the next hour, until the next hour. So even though it's 5:45, the smart way would say it's quarter until 6. So you would actually say quarter until 6 o'clock. Which is different for number 2. You would say half past 10. Half past 10. That's the smart way. So we kind of moved right along quickly from that into elapsed time. I related this to starting a race. I'm going to have students actually come up and create the chart so you can see it. All right, so I have a student who has the pen now that's going to walk us through this problem. Our start time is 4:55. That's the time we assume that the race has started. And the end time is 5:10. So, the first thing that the student needs to do is actually draw a start line for number 4 there. Number 4. Don't worry about erasing it. Just move up to 4. Draw your start line. Good. Now the start of the race is 4:55, so go ahead and write 4:55. Go ahead and put 4:55 underneath your start. Now we talked about mountains, hills, and rocks. A mountain is 1 hour, a hill is 5 minutes, and a rock is 1 minute. I can't use a mountain in this problem because if I went from 4:55 to 5:55, I went too far. So instead, the first interval I'm going to have is a 5-minute hill, which the student has correctly identified here. Now he's going to write the time of day. If you are a runner and the race started at 4:55 and you ran 5 minutes, as the student has correctly shown, it's now 5 o'clock. We still can't use a mountain. Instead, we use another hill. In this case, I've got 5 minutes. 5 minutes more from 5 o'clock, the student is now writing 5:05. Then one more hill is going to get us to the finish line. You can see the student has drawn the finish line, one more hill, which is another 5 minutes, which gets us to the end time of this race of 5:10. When you add all of those minutes together, we have 15 total minutes that has elapsed or passed. Excellent job. Now use that same strategy for question number 5 and 6 as we move on to question number 7. Question number 7 has a starting line of 7:55 as the student is correctly identifying as the S for start. 7:55 is the start of this race. This time it's a little bit different than what we saw in question number 4 because you are able to use mountains. And you can see this student is going through the mountains. Now I am going to tell the student, I think we have too many mountains here, and let me show you why. Because at the end of each mountain, I have to make sure that I'm also writing the time. So the first thing I want the student to do down here is write the time of day, so that would be 7:55. Now, we're going to say take one mountain at a time. So draw one mountain for me and write how much that's worth inside the mountain. That is 1 hour. So from 7:55, if I want an hour, the new time of day is 8:55, which the student is now drawing a mat line for, and that student will then put 8:55 for the time of day. Now, because I can continue, I can write another mountain, which is 1 hour. And 8:55 plus another hour is going to be 9:55. At this point, I'm done with my mountains. I can move right into my hills. So draw a hill, which is worth 5 minutes. And from 9:55, draw a line. We're now at 10 o'clock. Now at this point, we can go with another hill, which is going to be another 5 minutes. And this student's going to draw another line there with 5 minutes, and the time of day, which is 10:05. Now we have our little rocks, which are worth 1 minute. And in this case, to go from 10:05 to 10:08, we will need 3. So 3 little rocks, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 rocks, which gives us to 10:08. Good. Now we just need to total our amount of time from start to finish. It looks like we had 2 mountains, which would be 2 hours. So I'm going to ask the student to put 2 hours in the box there. That's fine. And then she's going to add the minutes. We had 2 hills, which was 5 minutes plus 5 minutes, which is 10. And then 3 more minutes on top of that is going to be 13 minutes. 2 hours, 13 minutes. Numbers 8, 9, and 10 are all word problems that can utilize the mountain, hill, and rock strategy. You can see we have a start time of 4:10 and end time at 5:37 for number 8. For number 9, you have a football game that's starting at 6:25, and they're giving you the elapsed time of 1 hour 20. So they want to know what time the game is over. Well, in that case, you would need a mountain, which is going to be 1 hour, and then a hill, 5 minutes, a hill, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then go back and determine what time it is. If this is 6:25, 1 hour would be 7:25. 5 more minutes would be 7:30, which would be here, to 7:35, to 7:40, and finally 7:45, which is 7:45. So it's still using the mountains, hills, and rocks strategy for number 9, but in this case, they want you to tell them what the finish time was. They want you to do the same exact thing for number 10, and it's just 55 minutes to complete the lesson. At the bottom here, we're doing what are called conversions. Number 11 and 12 are converting minutes, in this case to seconds, and for 12, seconds being converted to how many minutes. You need to know the basic fact, and you need to make it matchy-matchy. Here's how we set things up. I will do number 11. I hope the students can complete number 12 on their own. 57 minutes is equal to, at this time, we don't know how many seconds. The basic fact is 1 minute equals 60 seconds. I have to put minutes underneath minutes, so I can't put the 60 seconds underneath the 57 minutes because everything needs to be matchy-matchy, which means my 60 seconds needs to go over here. which is important because of two things. One, it's the hint that shows the students, oh, my two big numbers are across from each other, so I need to multiply. I also told the students that if you are starting at a bigger unit, like a minute, and going to a small unit, big to small, you're going to multiply them all. If the students have trouble remembering that, they can hopefully see the crisscross pattern here and do 57 times the 60 seconds and get 3,420. They would do a very similar process to number 12, and depending on if the numbers are on top of or across from each other determines whether they multiply or divide. The final three questions are more of what would be the best unit of measurement, either hours, minutes, or seconds. In this case, if you're a pitcher throwing a pitch to a catcher, that's going to be seconds. You wouldn't say minutes or hours. That's not logical. Number 14, what unit of study would it be for a drive from Smoketown Elementary to Fritz Elementary? Well, in this case, it's going to take us minutes to make that drive. How many minutes? Not really relevant, but it needs to be factored in here. And 15, a flight from Pennsylvania to Florida would be hours, which we have discussed on one of our final days today. I hope this review video helps.